Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Racers Driving League, and welcome to Season 21, Round 6 of the Championship. Welcome to the Miami International Australian for the Miami Grand Prix, and the start of what hopefully be another exciting evening of racing. I'm your host, Zach RC. I'm here to bring you through all the action tonight of what should be, as always, a very chaotic encounter around this circuit. And lacking in one face in particular, that being the reigning champion Grumio, only driver to have won more than one race this season. He's taken 2 of the last 3, and he's won every race he's taken part in. But tonight he is not with us. He's been replaced by none other than the returning Paris T32 under a different name for Mercedes tonight. So looking forward to seeing how Paris gets on circuit. But I'll be looking in particular at Daniel Aron, our championship leader, to be licking his lips potentially at the prospect of increasing his 16-point lead in the championship, and looking as well for the Red Bull of Huff to also try and take back second place in the Drivers' Championship after a disappointing race in Saudi Arabia last week. A crash during the second stint of his race. Unfortunately, a collision with the inside barrier at turn 4 ruled him out of the evening around the halfway stage. But Huff is back in the car and looking to get himself back on top again. Still hunting for that first career victory after 3 straight podiums in the first 4 races. We've also got Che making a return to the grid tonight in as a reserve role in at Aston Martin. So looking forward to seeing him in place of Ericsson tonight. Ericsson should be back hopefully for next week. And we're only missing the one car tonight, that being Pope's Ferrari. I haven't heard anything from Pope, so unsure as to the location. So Imrie holds down the fort then for the Prancing Horses tonight, as you see PJ Khaled in the Audi first car out on circuit. PJ, of course, scored most of Audi's points this season, 6 to Ethan's 3, so 9 points to that team so far. P10 for them in the constructors of the 11, but 6 points separating them from Aston Martin now, with Ericsson taking a point last week in Saudi Arabia. So on to the first lap then, around the Miami International Australian. Of course, the World Cup has cleared from America, and now the main highlight can once again be Formula 1 around the Hard Rock Stadium, at least until the NFL season gets underway in about a month or two's time. But PJ out of turn 3 in towards turn 4. Of course, a change in terms of the straight mode zones on this circuit. There's 3 of them, and mainly just sort of where the DRS zones were, truth be told. But obviously, straight mode and overtake can be a lethal combo, as we found out in these first 5 races. And overtaking should be ripe around this circuit. There should be plenty of it. So rife, sorry. There should be plenty of it around tonight's race. And we'll see in terms of sort of raw pace where battery is deployed over the course of the lap. The sort of combination of the two that has become the qualifying sessions in Formula 1 this year, in terms of tactically deploying your battery and also that sense of raw pace that always comes with a qualifying session. But in through the stadium section here, going in through turn 13 and into the very tight chicane turns 14 and 15 for PJ. Easy to get wrong, easy to clip that inside barrier, very similar to Jed at turn 4. And straight mode now in play as he leaves turn 16, leaves the second sector, and it's a long run down to turn 17. This, I believe, is the longest straight on the circuit. Obviously, the run from turn 8 down to turn 11 technically has a few corners in there, so it's a straight, but also kind of not. Bit deep there, slightly deep from an entry from PJ, but he's held onto it quite nicely as he rounds turns 18 and 19 to complete the first lap of the evening. It's a 1 minute 27.2 on the board for the Audi driver. And next up will be the Mercedes of Paris starting his first flying lap on his return to the RDL. It's been a little while. And there goes Shadow Rain and the Cadillac. Of course, let's not forget, this is Cadillac and Haas as their home races as a team, as Ben Wow finds himself in P2 there for VCARB, just 700ths off of Shadow Rain. So a good start. I mean, Shadow Rain's been very consistent in the midfield. Of course, didn't run last week's race in Saudi Arabia, but prior to that, 10th, 4th, and 8th is 3 results. So 17 points in his first 3 full-time starts. So definitely not a bad set of returns for the Cadillac team. Puts them in P9 in the constructors, in front of both Audi and Aston Martin. I think the aim there with them to try and keep themselves in front. Obviously, the higher running of the 2 new teams. I see Ethan's got into 3rd place there. Ben Spittle's in for Audi. Of course, this being just his 3rd start, yet to score his first championship point. So looking perhaps that'll be the target for tonight's race. Che in P7, I'm guessing quite off on the first lap, although that could just be the raw speed of the Aston Martin. I guess we'll never really know on that front, based on it being 2026, as we are all aware of the Aston's performance in the first half of the real life F1 season. Huff into 2nd place then, so Huff, obviously normally one of our top qualifiers. Shadow Rain in front of him here, so things might be a tad bit closer tonight. Of course, we'll see what happens when Dan comes out on circuit. Dan's on his first lap now, going in through turn 14. And of course, one of our strong qualifiers is taking more poles than anyone, I believe, this season so far. He obviously took pole in the first 2 races and using a good toe here from Temp Cannon to his advantage. Of course, Temp has come alive in the last 2 rounds. A pair of 4th place finishes after a scoreless first 3 rounds leaves her on 24, tied with HB Cook in the standings, but obviously takes the place by virtue of a higher place in a single race. As Imri goes fastest there by a good 8 tenths or so, but what does Dan have in store as he comes up to the line? Dan can't quite trounce Imri, but just over a tenth between them as they end off their first laps. Of course, Imri's had a somewhat disappointing start to the season, minus the victory in Japan. Didn't run in last week's race. He was, of course, celebrating his birthday last week, and had the just a pair of unfortunate races in terms of the races in China and Bahrain, of course, the disastrous start in Australia. So things have been quite rough for Ferrari as a whole. 35 points from this season, which sounds like a decent return, but as of right now, only enough for P6 in the Constructors' Championship. McLaren, of course, on top by 12 over Mercedes, and again with only 18. Neither 18 nor Green in tonight's race. So Mercedes are completely out in terms of full-time drivers. Cott has taken up the mantle several times for Mercedes this season. It appears his services have been called on once again. Apologies, I only just noticed that. So, yeah, both 18 Grimmy out then. So that'll be big for McLaren and big for Red Bull. Red Bull will be trying to close that gap, I should think. Of course, Huff has done the brunt of the points so far this season. Webb's only scoring 16. He's been to every race so far. A 7th place finish in Australia and a 5th place finish in Japan, his best showing so far. And looking to sort of get that result that will kickstart his season, of course. This being the circuit which he scored his most recent victory, but that coming back on F1 24. So it's been quite a while waiting for Webbs to return to the top step of the podium. And we'll see here what he's got up his sleeve tonight. Is Che in there in 3rd place, showing he's not lost a yard of pace at all there. 126.481. And that might be the sort of the highest we see the Astons for quite some time in. I mean, obviously Alvar's done quite solid so far this season with the 2-point scoring finishes in Australia and Japan. Same as Webbs on that front. TJ there in P4 for Haas. Of course, the Haas drivers also look equally quick. TJ's on a run of, he of course didn't run the first 3 races, but on a run of 3-point scoring finishes. So looking at, again, Japan 7th place and then 5th place in Bahrain and last week in Saudi Arabia as well. So Haas find themselves in quite a nice P4 in the Constructors, but only find themselves about 8 points clear of Alpine and then 11 points clear of Ferrari. So fast for Haas, but still have plenty of teams breathing down their necks. And same thing for Williams, who are also 11 points back in 7th place, tied with Ferrari. Of course, the combination of JB and Lucky. Of course, JB came back from the collision in the race in Bahrain. So him and Lucky with just a few laps to go. There was no points to the line that race, but JB took 7th position in Jeddah. So adds that to his podium finish from the first race, but to on a very comfortable 21 points. JB, of course, often very vocal about his sort of ambitions to sort of maintain at least a top half, if not a top 10 finish in the Drivers' Championship. Of course, that changes a bit now with there being 11 teams on the grid and no longer 10. But I'm guessing top 10 is still the mark for JB, and he is achieving that right now. But only finds himself 1 point in front of Curtis and 4 points in front of Shadow Rain, who's proved he can score points from the get-go here. And that'll be a big beneficiary for Cadillac, or rather they will be the beneficiaries of any points scored by the combination of Shadow Rain and Cottney Goblin. Of course, Cottney's still looking for his first point alongside Ben. So, but Ben in P8 right now in qualifying, so not doing too bad at all for a start. HB Cook in P5, his teammate, sporting that very nice blue and black helmet. I think possibly one of my favourite helmets on the grid. It's very vibrant, and I think it just sort of fits the car quite nicely, the design on the V-carb there. But he's coming out through turn number 9 now, or towards turn 9 rather, and heading into the straight mode on, and keeping the battery sort of at about half the tank here, of course. Plenty still needed for the run down to turn 17 in a matter of moments as he heads into turn 11, one of the tighter braking zones on the circuit. Very easy to lock up and get things wrong there, but evidently he's doing a fantastic job so far as he rounds turns 14 and 15. Through the chicane he goes, very smooth, in through 16. And right on board with me as he deploys straight mode. There it is, of course, the front wing and rear wing opening up, as are the rules with the Active Aero this season. And HB Cook has not used any battery. I'm guessing he's on his end laps, so which would explain as to the lack of battery use. But there he goes then into turn 17, and he will likely call it quits for this run. Imri's back out on circuit. Of course, there's still about 8 minutes to go, so enough time for another... Sorry, just under 8 minutes to go. So still enough time for another run, I should think, potentially. But Imri going at it again here. See everyone on the soft tyres in this qualifying. So just have a look at the gaps here so far. Top 11 covered by less than a second. Well, less than 9/10 to be exact. So now still the top half of the field quite close together. And of course, just over a second to Curtis in P12. Is another about a quarter second back to JB. Webbsy in P14 and Spittles P15. Cott, Lucky, Paris, and then Harrison. Harrison the slowest so far, but going in through turn 7 and 8 now on another lap. So I'm guessing he's going full push this time around. And his first sector, 8 seconds up. So clear improvement then from the Alpine driver, who looked to have a fairly promising start. I mean, he's still P4 in the championship, but a big gulf now between him and Huff in third. The top 3 looking very much like they are a class apart from the rest of the field. But Harrison appears to have that best of the rest mantle so far. He's taken points in 3 of the first 5 races. Imri goes faster still. 125.9 on the board then for the Ferrari driver. Of course, he's, as I say, looking for his second win of the season. Looking to join Grumio as the only other driver to take more than 1 win. Of course, Dan's been very consistent. Let's not forget, Dan's got the only driver with a 100% podium rate from all 5 races. Because, of course, Grumio's won every race he's been in, but he's also missed 2 of them. So, hence why he's not running top of the championship as we're used to seeing him. But still, Grumio's absence, a big opportunity for Dan tonight as Harrison rounds turn 17. With the victory in hand, Dan should potentially be able to take a 41-point lead as Harrison goes third fastest there. Big lap for him and slots him quite nicely onto the second row. Curtis now in P4, of course. TJ was up there earlier on before being jumped by Che, Shadow Rain, and now Ethan in the Audi in P7. But Curtis has taken up the mantle quite nicely here. And with the absence of the 2 Mercedes cars, that opens things up quite a bit more in terms of places in the top 10 for drivers who, in most cases for Grumio and AT, look like surefire points finishers almost every week. So opportunity knocks for, I think, everyone on the grid here. Obviously, the reserves in the race as well, which means should they run inside the top 10, then the drivers who sit in 11th and 12th, as long as they're full-time, might have things open a bit more to try and score them some points as well. So obviously, a reserve rule in the RDL, reserves cannot score. So if a reserve driver finished in the top 10, the points then go down a place, each depending on how many reserve drivers place. So Curtis backs off there, allows one of the Mercedes cars through. That is Paris. He's running a different name here, running the name Mott P326. But still the same. Paris T32 coming to the line now and running himself in P19. Improving on his previous effort. I'm guessing out of practice. But good to see that iconic 32 back on the grid again. And Paris here and hopefully ready to rock. Spittles in through the second sector. Had his current lap deleted for track limits. So let's go again, I should think here. Battery is completely full. And likely going to try and get some clean air between him and JB just in front. JB currently running in P9. Best lap so far for him, a 126.857. 4.5 minutes left, so most drivers are finding the pit lane now. I'm just making those last sort of changes and just waiting for the right moment to head back out on track for those critical final runs. And things still awfully close to the top right now. Imri's opening things up a little bit as JB into the pit lane here. And Spittles is going to go through and go for his next effort. He's at the track practically all to himself here, save for the 2 McLarens and Paris still on circuit, but likely pitting this time. But Dan, I think perhaps trying to get things in before the rush. Or perhaps, will we see him maybe back off here, charge the battery up, and give a tow to 10th Cannon? Because she's also out on circuit, let's not forget, and over there going through turn 10. So keep an eye on these two. We've seen them do it so often this season. Yellow flags are out, which means Danji is sort of evidently backing off here. So going to get his battery all the way up. Got his tyres warmed up. Although he'd been on them for a lap here. So whether he's coming back in again, not too sure. Imri out on circuit. So he and PJ are leading the line in terms of these final runs. But Dan now in prime position to give 10th that tow she'll need. 127.0 is 10th best effort. She's already 4 tenths up, 4.5 tenths up to be precise, after sector 2. And that tow would have helped tenfold if she can finish the lap off. P13 for now. We'll see what she jumps up to as Dan finds the pit lane. Has he got time to go for another run? I think he does. But 10th into P4 there. That's a big lap. And we'll see if she can maintain that spot, because things all of a sudden looking way more positive for McLaren with both cars in the top 5. And the pair of Papaya Warriors all of a sudden looking extremely strong as a unit. But Dan is into the pit lane now. I should think he'd have enough time to get back out there. He's got to be out on the track in the next minute. So he's got to likely put on a fresh set of soft tyres and go from there. But Imri's out on track now. 10th Cannon will be coming into the pit lane herself, I should think. This will be her last lap. Well, that was her last lap we just saw. Spittles unlucky, starting circuit. Spittles not really fine. He's found a little bit. It's 127.7. We'll see if he makes any gains in this first sector. On these tyres for 2 laps so far. He still looks like he's pushing. He's found a quarter of a second almost, so not bad at all from Spittles to start. Lucky Lambert's just in front of him in P18 in terms of on track, but right behind him P18, about 8 tenths or so. Paris T32 there, P19. Cottony P20 and Alvar P21. Alvar starting his will be his final lap. Cottony Goblin sliding there through turn 2. Keeps the car on the wraps though. That Cadillac got a bit wide offline. Shadow Rain still in P7 with a chance still to improve on the final runs here. I think we should see him appearing at least one of these guys. Okay, actually, nope, scrap that. The 2 Haas cars in front. Shadow Rain just started his last lap. And Dan is out on circuit. He's got back up in plenty of time. Harrison also is out lap, so everyone's going at it now, save for 10th Cannon and Ethan, who both of them have found the pit lane after final runs. Ethan not heading back out there. 10th coming back in. And we'll see if she maintains P4. But McLaren look like your favourites so far this evening, unless things change quite dramatically in this last stage of qualifying. Yellow's out over in turn 1. And that's Lucky Lambert slowing up. Yes, it is. 127.7 for Lucky. So not a fantastic qualifying here from the Season 10 champion as we enter the last minute. Cars coming to the line. Harrison starts his last lap. Imri trying to build himself up for another run. 10th Cannon retiring, so she's called it quits. P4 for her right now. We'll see if that changes. And Dan is coming towards turn 17. He's got 30 seconds to get to the line, which he should make nice and easy. I just think that everyone that's on an out lap now will get to the line just fine. Last car coming up there will be Websy. He's going to the last corner now. So everyone will get laps in. Next car through to the line is one of the Haas cars, I believe. Curtis into P2. He's found a big lap. And Shadow Rain across the line, found a bit of time. Sorry, I only noticed that Curtis is in second place. Fantastic lap from the Haas driver. We could see him on the front row potentially. He's just come through with that. Checkered flag is up. Next car to the line will be, I believe, one of the Williams cars. Lucky Lambert, but it's currently 4 seconds down. So we'll focus on the next car behind. That'll be the Alpine of Spittles. I think it's also on the lap. So that moves things over to Huff. Huff sat down in P12 here. And Red Bull needs some big improvements on this last lap. Situation looking quite dire for them. As Huff rounds turn 17. A drive with a big opportunity to try and close up to down in the championship and overtake Grumio for P2 once again. Huff towards the line. Puts himself into P10. It's not a massive gain. It's a gain nonetheless. As Ben comes to the line, P13 for him. He's been quite good on the first lap in these recent races. So we'll see what he's got up his sleeve for the first corner. Harrison towards the line. Harrison stays in P5. One of the Mercs in behind. That's Cott to P15. PJ to P13. Next car through is HB Cook. It's up by half a second. That could jump him massively up the field here. Could jump into around the top 5. Cook finds P6. Paris in behind P20. Imri faster still, and that should guarantee pole, unless Dan can change that here on this last run. He can't do it, but he's awfully close. 3 tenths between them. Imri starts on pole, and Curtis has been cruelly denied the front row at the last. Che in P4. Curtis will come to the lines to complete the session. 3rd place for him. Still a fantastic start, but not enough to prop himself onto the front row. But Imri will start on pole and looking for win number 2 this season. Dan starts from 2nd place. Curtis in 3rd. Che reserving in P4 for Aston Martin. Harrison P5 and it's Cook P6. 10th, TJ, Shadow Rain and Alvar round out your top 10. That'll do us then for qualifying. And we will join us once again in a matter of moments here for the start of the Miami Grand Prix. So time then for the Miami Grand Prix to get underway. Round number 6 of the Racers Driving League Season 21. And what should hopefully be a thrilling encounter around the outskirts of the Hard Rock Stadium, home of the NFL outfit Miami Dolphins. And there's a look at your circuit. 29 laps around the circuit today. And definitely it's an odd shape, to put it mildly, the Miami International Autodrome. Of course, hosted the World Cup a matter of days ago in terms of a very proud result for the Three Lions. But now back to Formula One, the more important sport of the two, as we all agree. And Imrie on pole with Dan to his right for the run to the first corner. That should be a very exciting start. The track appearing somewhat overcast here. I shouldn't think we'll see any threat of rain later in the Grand Prix. I have to wait and see as to what the weather has in store for us, if Mother Nature will have her say on this Grand Prix. But the next 29 laps should be an absolute thrill. Chaos always ensues in Miami, and with the absence of the two Mercedes cars, there's less chance of a single dominant driver, most likely in Grumio for a race victory, and a big opportunity for Dan to try and increase his championship lead, as well as the chance for Huff to try and close back in on Grumio and take second place away. A 4th place finish will do it. That'll move him back into second place in the championship, but Dan will be his target, I should think, over the course of this Grand Prix, getting in front of and keeping in front of that McLaren sat there on the front row alongside our pole sitter, the lone Ferrari, who will lead us out on the formation lap here. Imrie starts from pole position, and it's Dan alongside in P2. Medium tyres for everyone down to top 16. It's Curtis starting from 3rd place. Again, Haas with a fantastic qualifying position for them. And this time starting from the 2nd row of the grid. It's Che in 4th place as a reserve tonight for Aston Martin. He's been fantastic in his reserve appearances in the past and the last few seasons. We'll see if this tonight's any different. Harrison starts from P5 for Alpine, running in P4 in the championship, but looking for a big result to try and put himself closer to that top 3 in the standings. HB Cook starts from P6, again fantastic qualifying for him and the VCARB team, and looking to make a big impact after scoring 24 points from the first 5 rounds. It's 10th Cannon in P7, a pair of 4th place finishes for her last 2 races, and looking for more of the same tonight. TJ starts from 8th place. Bit of work to do to try and catch his teammate Curtis, but I think it should be light work for the former race winner. Shadow Rain starts from P9. He's had a fantastic start to his RDL career so far with Cadillac, and looking for more of the same, but what is only their first home Grand Prix in the RDL. Alvar starts from P10 with one Aston Martin in P4, the one that can score points, in with a good shout here, starting from the top half of the grid. Ethan's lines up P11, the lead Audi for the run to the first corner tonight, and still looking to add to their points tally, just 9 points in the first 5 rounds as a unit. Huff in P12, let's try and take P4 or higher to try and pass Grumio in the Drivers' Championship. He wants to catch Dan. He's got some work to do in tonight's race. His teammate Webbsy behind him in P13, and again looking for more of the same. Webbsy looking for a big result to sort of push him up into the top 10 in the standings. JBP 14, same sort of thing. Points last time out to maintain P10 in the championship after a P7 finish last week. PJ P15, and again looking for the same sort of target as his teammate Ethan, but trying to push towards the points, which is more of a job. Ben starts from P16, yet to score his first point this season, looking to make an impact. It's been fantastic on the first lap so far this season. Cott is your lead reserve for Mercedes tonight, in place, one of them in place of Grumio or AT, one of the two. Spittle starts from P18, again one of the drivers looking for his first championship point alongside Ben and Connie. Lucky starts from P19, tough qualifying for him, and looking to try and recover himself, get himself back on form again. Connie P20, and Paris T32 reserving tonight, making his return to the grid for Mercedes. And look, we'll see if he can make any kind of impact here as Lucky moves in to get himself back in that grid spot. Nice and easy there. You see Imrie waiting on the grid, and Dan alongside. Dan looks to be aiming across here for the race towards that first corner as the lights come on here in Miami for the 6th race of the season here in Season 21 of the Racers Driving League. And it's lights up onto the floor. We are underway in the Sunshine State. Good start from both drivers on the front row. Dan gets himself alongside Imrie and goes to the inside for the turn 1, but locks up. And that will leave the two cars side by side here as you see Che slot into 3rd place. Dan over the curb through turn 3. Imrie goes wide through turn 3. And Che might try and get involved and get himself close enough side by side between your two front row starters going into turn number 5. Through turn 4, sorry. It's very close. It's wheel to wheel between the pair of them here. And Imrie not backing out, not giving in, and takes the lead away outright. And Dan slots himself into 2nd place with Che just in behind. Harrison P4 and Curtis rounds at your top 5. Down 2 places here on the start. Not fantastic for Haas as an entire unit. HB Cook in P6, 10th behind. Shadow Rain, TJ and Alvar still holding on to P10 as they charge down towards turn number 11. Dan takes the lead back. Che trying the outside, but he can get himself close enough. Might try and outbrake the cars around him. It's very tight, and Che almost forced off circuit. Imri and Che side by side for P2. Dan now leads the way, but Che trying and get himself in front of Imri. He clears the Ferrari going into turn 14 and now finds himself right on the tail of one Daniel Aaron, your championship leader, as he rounds turn 16. All single file here to make the way down the back straight for the first time, heading towards that braking zone of turn 17. Good run could be in play here for Che. No overtake in play just yet, just boost for this first lap, as everyone keeps it nice and tidy on the run down to 17, and everyone single file, as I say. And potential challenges coming to play here from Ben in P12, looking to try to make up some places. Looking to make a pass on Huff, the Red Bull and V-Carb side by side. Ben wins out on this occasion. Huff still down in P12. Not a fantastic start to this Grand Prix. Team at Websy down one spot as Dan leads the first lap of this race. Che in P2 and Imri running in third place, but by no means a distant third. It's all still very close here up front. Harrison behind him in P4, looking to try and join the train. Overtake obviously in play for a number of these cars, save for the race leader. I think everyone's got it except for your race leader in that McLaren, who has shown he doesn't need it. And we'll see what sort of pace he's got in him. As Imri tries the inside, a bit too aggressive from Imri, and there was a bit of contact there. He slid a little bit, keeps the car under control. Good save, but perhaps a move not really worth it going there through turn 7. The inside line, not the lines to try and take that corner. We made it work on the first lap fighting Dan, but not in every case. As Che now makes his move on Dan, and Che takes the lead then. And for the first time in quite a while, I think it's actually, oh, contact there with the outside wall, and Harrison has lost a bit of front wing. He's going to fall down the field here, fall down to P8. Looks like he's trying to attack Imri and not working out. Nothing doing there for Harrison. Hits the outside wall again, going through turn 13. And that's both parts of the wing. A penalty for corner cutting. And the race has gotten very, very dire for Harrison on an evening where he's trying to chase down the top 3 in the championship with one of them out of action tonight. And that's to make his job a lot more difficult as he falls down to P12 here. Move Huff inside the points playing places. Huff has now dispatched Ben and looking to try and challenge Alvar now. The Aston Martin on the outside. A bit of a lock up there from Huff into turn 17, but gets himself in front. Clears the Aston out of turn 17, and Che now fastest lap, but Huff into the points paying places and into P9 here. His next target being TJ in front as Harrison into the pit lane. Then disappointing start to this Grand Prix for the Alpine team as a whole. Spittle's down there in P16, so still a lot of work to be done for Alpine then. And what looked to be a promising start to their campaign as a whole seems to have gone awry. Hard tyres on, and of course a wing change for Harrison. He is away. Back up front here, Che leads by a decent, sort of relatively commanding half second to Dan in second place and Imri in third. Curtis and Cook keeping hold of that train. Shadow Rain less than a second behind, bringing everyone with him and keeping everyone up front quite honest. And no overtake for TJ, only boost for him. And Huff has got Alvar right behind him. He's used a fair bit of battery in these first two and a half laps. So Alvar could be right on the tail here as JB makes the pass. And JB goes very deep there, going in through turn 11. And turn 11 has already caught out a number of challengers in these first few laps. Almost going 3 wide behind them between Spittles, Lucky and Cott. Slightly, I thought I saw a bit of contact there, not too sure, but very tight there through turn 14. And that's a place where if you can really avoid it, not worth going for a move on the inside, not worth being side by side there, because there's every chance you could get accidentally squeezed into the inside wall. As Dan now up front takes the lead back from Che going into turn 17. But Che and Imri are waiting to pounce behind as Curtis has fallen back a little bit here. And as it was, the top 3 now awfully close as Che and Dan, these 2 former teammates, going at it down towards turn 1. These 2 won a Constructors' Championship just not too long ago. Oh, Ram goes down, and the championship leader spins off, going in through turn 1, and down the field he goes, and that could be pivotal for him. And Huff will be looking at that and thinking, thank you very much, I will take that. Of course, Huff can't take the championship lead. He is still 27 points behind Dan, needs at least one more Grand Prix to do that, but Dan down the field here, and down to P12. No damage done to that McLaren, just sort of like, I imagine, scuffed tyres in some way, but Dan, all of a sudden, your championship leader with so much work to do in this Grand Prix. Che now leads outright with Imri right behind in second place, and Imri will be sniffing this opportunity with absolute delight at a chance as Cook makes the pass on Curtis on the outside. Cook takes over the podium places. A big opportunity also arises now for a number of drivers who'd be sort of looking out on the way, looking on the outside, looking in on the podium places normally. But with Dan down the field here and Huff also down in P8, the things open up a bit more, and Imri's got a big opportunity here. Obviously, even if Che wins the race, if the race was to end here, Imri would take the full 25 points because Che is only a reserve. And Imri, of course, will be credited with the victory. So down towards turn 17 again. It's been a very chaotic first 4 laps here in Miami. Cook trying to close the gap on Imri, who himself has got his sights set on Shea in P1. 10th Cannon on the inside of Shadow Rain. McLaren versus Cadillac going in through turn 17. McLaren wins out on this occasion. Imrie finds the pit lane here. And an early stop then off of the medium tyre for Imrie. I'm not entirely sure what's happened there. I mean, he hasn't picked up damage surely, has he? Routine stop. So Imrie going, maybe because I'm guessing the two stop in play here, but all of a sudden your two leaders, your two front row starters down the field. Another yellow flag down at turn number 1, I believe. Not entirely sure who that is. Has someone gone off? Another yellow. And we've got a VSC. And that is Cott has gone. Where is Cott? There he is. Spun the car going through turn 3. I'm guessing must have just lost traction. But Cott then back down the order. And Imrie into P19, but the VSC deployed. And I mean, perhaps had it come a little bit earlier, we may have seen a lot more cars dive into the pit lane for a free stop. Of course, you don't lose as much time pitting under a virtual safety car or a full safety car as you would do under green flag stops. But Che now by himself then, as the green flag comes back out with a commanding 2-second lead over Cook in second place, Curtis in third, 10th and 4th, Shadow Rain in P5 as your top two, your front row starters, have both fallen down the field for separate reasons here. Dan spinning out and Imrie, your first car in the pit lane in terms of routine stop. Of course, Harrison has repaired the damage and sits about 5 seconds back here from Cott, but Cott obviously losing his own ground to the field thanks to having the lack of front wing on that Silver Arrow. Imrie now sort of last car in the train. He's trying to close up to Lucky Lambert to ensure he can get himself some overtake for lap 6. But Cook's focus now will be trying to close that gap because he now sits in first place in terms of full-time drivers. Curtis in third, 10th and 4th, Shadow Rain P5. And keep an eye obviously in Huff is found his way into P7 now. Both his two sort of main rivals in this race, you should think, down the order. Alvaro in P8, Ben in P9. Ben, of course, still hunting for those first points of season 21, his first points back in the cockpit since season 19. And Ethan in P10 for Audi. But with the reserve in the top 10, it means the last point currently falls to Dan. But Huff getting a little bit, but obviously you're still yet to stop as Dan looks to try the inside into turn number 8. It's tight, but you can get to the inside, but you just can't get the run off the corner that you might prefer. And so Dan falls back into line here. And with less battery than the cars are around him, might find himself falling prey to JB if he doesn't try to go for a move on Ethan or Ben first. JB close to the attack as Dan tries the inside. He's got 1. Can he get 2? Potentially going in through turn number 11, through turn 12 on the outside. It's very tight between him and Ben because they go towards 13. But Dan's got the inside line and moves up again. Dan is a P9 and the championship leader is pulling no punches here this early on in Florida. Through turn 16 and pulling away from that pack behind. Ben in P10, Ethan P11, JB still in P12, PJ behind him. It's Spittles, Websy, Lucky, and then Imrie, who has managed to dispatch Cottony Goblin and Paris. Cott down the field here, and Harrison about 8 seconds off of Paris right now. See Ethan and Ben going side by side, leaving turn 17 through turn 18. Can Ben find a way back on the inside? He's got overtake to his advantage on the right-hand side towards that first corner. Eases back in front for a second. Into turn 1 they go, very tight there, and for a second I thought Ethan might go straight on, but none thing of the sort. He's still holding on to things quite nicely in that Audi as they go through turns 2 and 3. And despite actually missing an end plate on that car, he's doing a fantastic job right now maintaining that position. But all the action going on in the midfield right now is things quite comfortable for your sort of top 7 or so up front. Huff trying to close the gap to TJ, who himself is focused on reeling in Shadow Rain. And Shadow Rain's sort of, he's got no battery right now, so a slight concern for the Cadillac team, but still in a fairly good position this early on. Curtis in P4 again, still looking fantastic for Haas as of right now. They're currently scoring 20 points as things run, but I should think we'll most likely see Dan up the field, but I mean he's yet to stop, so things could be more of a concern for him. Obviously Imrie's a lot further back despite having made that, or obviously he's made his first pit stop, and you think that Dan making a mistake would be the one down the field, but Dan yet to come in. So we'll see when he stops, and we'll see if Imrie can take advantage, because I'm guessing likely a one-stop in play for Imrie today as we've got several cars fighting in front here. Ben again challenging Ethan as Paris gets the second penalty of the evening here, but the first one for complete track limits. Of course, Harrison got one for the corner cut on the second lap. But Ethan still hanging on to P10 right now And in front of him, it's by about 2 seconds. It's Dan. In comes Dan into the pit lane. And Imri is going to jump in by quite some distance, I should think, here. Because Dan is reaching his pit box as Imri goes past into turn 1. Hard tyres on for Dan. The question is, though, because he's pitted slightly later, and the question will be, is the one stop really doable for these guys? Oh, Websy's out. Yellow flag's out, and the safety car has been deployed. Websy's crashed there at turn 3 for Websy on corner exit. And Websy, former winner of this race back in season 18, I believe. There's a wheel left there from that Red Bull at the side of the road. Safety car is out, and Dan now down the field, and that may have worked out as quite poor timing, and the red flag's out. Well, free stop for everybody then, I should think, and that's going to change the matters then for your two front row starters who are down the field who made their first stops, but now everyone's getting a free one, so this race could be thrown into chaos awfully quickly here, as we now get set for what will be a red flag restart. Not entirely sure what that was for, though. I'm guessing debris. I mean, we saw Websy's tyre sort of stranded on the circuit even as the car despawned. So I'm guessing this must have been just for debris, but a very odd call from race control there. And we'll see exactly how everyone responds in terms of tyres. But tough luck for Imri and Dan. But those two, evidently, I think the fastest two drivers in the field. So it'll be down to how they get their heads down and just carry on. But obviously, you got to feel for Dan in particular, who literally just stopped and then got the safety car and then red flag. So things not working out very nicely for a number of drivers in the field here. Maybe in a second, I think JB and Webbs may have collided in fighting for position. I'm just waiting here. I think everyone's got a black screen as of right now. But obviously everyone's got to change tyres for this one. And here we go. So we're getting set for a restart once everyone readies up and once everyone changes their tyres. So things change a little bit here. So we're going to get to the point. We'll get to the point where the first stint was coming to a close for a lot of drivers on the medium tyres anyway. A lot of things going on in the chat right now, in the Discord chat. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting restart, I should think, here. So we get ourselves set for the final sort of 20 laps or so of this race. And here we go. The restart about to get underway. Che and Cook on the front row. And everyone on the same sort of tyres here. Lights are on. And we're back to racing once again here in Miami. Che and Cook off the line. Great start from Che there. He leads things completely as Curtis goes 3 wide with Cook and 10th into the first corner. Curtis takes P2 away quite nicely indeed there. Imri restarted from the mid-pack. Dan sort of at the rear of the field here. And things could get quite dicey in the middle here, but they're not too careful. We're on lap 10 of this thing. Things changing early on. A bit close to contact between Imri and Spittles here. And Spittles tries the outside of Alvar, going in through turn number 7, sorry. And Spittles around the outside, might make it work unless Alvar can get a good run off the corner. Imri might try and follow him through in the Ferrari. Boost mode in play. But what a start from Che in front. You saw him get away from the line nice and clean. But Curtis now leads this thing in terms of your full-time runners. Shadow Rain challenging TJ. Very late on the brakes there. The two home team heroes side by side. And behind him is getting quite dicey. Oh, contact as Ben sends Lucky Lambert into the inside wall. And Imri gets squeezed as well. And damage done to the end plate of the Ferrari. And it's all getting very, very chaotic in the mid-pack. Dan's getting through unscathed right now. He's in P15, but Imri's got damage. And I believe Ben has some too on that left side. And it wouldn't surprise me if Lucky gets hit with some too. Yes, you see it there on the right end plate gone, and left end plate gone in Imri's case. And Imri finds the pit lane then, so it should be technically a third stop from him in this Grand Prix. And coming in. But the race not over yet, so a long way to go in this thing. A second set of hard tyres on the wing change for Imri. We'll see what he does now. up front, it's Che from Curtis, then Cook, then 10th, then Shadow Rain. Huff into P7 here, of course. Things worked out quite nicely for him in all this, with Dan now down in P14. But Huff needs 3 more places to solidify himself in P4, in P2 in the championship. Spittles has gone around. Yellow flag's out. Slow Alpine there on corner exit. They're going 3 wide in front, as Harrison get quite close. They're going 3 wide. And they're still close to contact between Dan. Oh, more cars being run into the wall there. Harrison and Ethan going at it. Got a game glitch here as Harrison's almost his entire nose cone has gone save for the front wing, which is a slight improvement on how it used to be on the old cars. I mean, at least there's a sign of the front of the car still there in some way. They're just simply not there holding it together. There's your full look at it. Cott passing Ethan. So passing mid, of course. Cott was down the field by quite some way here. Now finds himself in P13. Can't score points, but I'm sure he wouldn't say no to a top 10 finish today. Oh, and we're going wide there. PJ in through turn 17. Harrison takes full advantage. Goes siding back through on the inside and up into P11 again. And with Che in the points, that means Harrison can take 1 as it stands right now. And Senna actually, Huff only needs 2 places at the minute, as Paris gets a 10-second penalty for speed in the pits. Spittles is in as well. Hard tyres on for Paris. I'm guessing same thing here for Spittles. Or medium tyres on for the Alpine, and the wing change too. Imru has a few cars to dispatch now as he goes into P18. But he still finds himself quite some way back from JB in P17. So 1 car out then, that's just Websy from the collision a few laps ago. As things start to settle down again, but it's a very different race up front than what we're used to. And I'm guessing Cook knows that he could be trying to fight for what will be just his second RDL victory if he can get around Curtis. Curtis is leading the way here. Dan, of course, has made a stop and still finds himself in the... Sorry, has Dan made a stop? No, sorry, no, yes, he's just on a fresh at hard tyres. Could he take those to the end is the question? I'm guessing the plan was to try and run the one stop if he could, but I mean, with the red flag, things are called into question a bit more in terms of who could do what. But for now, though, Cook sets the fastest lap. Shadow Rain immediately beats that. And Cadillac and Haas, no doubt very pleased with their cars' showings so far in this race. Huff still in P7, Ben in P8, Lucky P9, Dan in P10, Harrison right behind him. So Dan will obviously still maintain his championship lead regardless here. He can't lose it today, but he can definitely see that gap drop by a couple of points. But unless Huff can jump Grumio, the official gap between P1 and P2 will still remain steady at 16 points. And Paris another penalty here, speed in the pits. So serving the first one and then put a set of hard tyres on, it seems. Spittles in as well, another wing change. Not quite sure what's going on with these two. Imri now 15 seconds back from Cottony. JB's made the pass and they're now trying to pass Alvar as well. Lock up in front from Cott in the Mercedes as JB goes around the outside of Alvar. 2 veterans go at it as they run through turn 13. And JB into P15 there. So good move made then from the Williams driver. We've still got half a race to go, but it might be unlikely. We'll see if he can try and match that point scoring finish of last week. Makes the pass here on Ethan, who's backing out of it, it seems. Ethan really lifting off there in the Audi going in through turn 17. Not quite sure what that's about. Lucky and Dan side by side here, going into turn number 1. 10th Cannon and Shadow Rain also fighting, so both McLarens currently locked in combat. Into turn 3 they come. Lucky on the outside as the better line off the... He was in front, but Dan's got the better line through turn 3. Been through turn 4, he'll be on the outside now. He outbreaks the former champion, and Dan up into P9. Lucky very wide there. There goes Harrison making his way through on the inside. Good move from the Alpine. Can he hold it off of turn 8? He can hold it. Lucky has got no choice but to fall away here. Still currently running the last points paying place. Harrison with the penalty, let's not forget, as up front, Cook and Curtis in 10th going at it for the lead. Cook now sits in front. Shadow Rain right behind these guys. And again, Shadow Rain could be looking potentially for his and Cadillac's first podium in the league. And that'd be a big place to try and get it. Che continues to expand what is now a 2-second advantage in front. But Cook now in control of the win and the points as things run. Curtis, the lone driver in this little train on medium tyres. There's no one else on mediums down to Harrison and P10. So I'm thinking we'll likely see Curtis pit first of these four rather. Shadow Rain challenging 10th through turn 17. Can't quite do it. Through turn 19, might trying to tack down towards the first corner. We're about halfway through the Grand Prix now. Shadow Rain's turn 1. 10th locks up a little bit there on the outside. We'll have the inside line for 2. Lucky Lambert into the pit lane here. One of those medium tyre runners is in as Shadow Rain dispatches 10th. Curtis pulled away a little bit here, but Cook now 8/10ths in front and looking a bit more comfortable. May he try and close down on Che for the top spot. Oh, safety car's back out again. Can't tell who's gone around. Not quite sure what's brought that on. But we'll see if it's just a safety car this time, or we'll see if we get another red flag. I doubt we will. Things looking alright here. I'm not entirely sure what's just happened there, so apologies for missing that. Yeah, everyone seems all intact as of right now, but this will bring the pack close together, and that might open things up a chance for Dan and Imri to come back to the field. Of course, those two have been the ones to keep an eye on so far, but neither has made a huge amount of progress. Obviously, Imri had a lot more ground to try and gain, and Dan has been sort of chasing the lead train, which has been quite fast in this race so far. But Che's lead will be reeled in. Cook, Curtis, Shadow Rain 10th. They've been the closest challengers, and TJ was looking to try and get involved sooner rather than later in the second half of this race. But it is a full safety car. I think we'll likely see a bunch of pit stops here. TJ could be the driver who loses out the most here, but there's a fair bit of gap from him to Huff. So may not lose out too much with the old double stack. It's a bit of a gap between Curtis and TJ as is, but I think TJ will still lose out. And there he is waiting there to stop stationary and then make the change. PJ stays out here, so Audi leading for the first time. Che comes out in front, Cook, then Curtis, then Alvar staying out, then Shadow Rain, Cockney Goblin staying out. It's both Cadillacs down the top 10. Huff, and then TJ. So TJ in that, only losing one spot in the pit lane, but obviously losing a bunch of track position thanks to those cars who have made pit stops. But we are now halfway through the race officially, and looking at fresh tyres for the majority of runners here. PJ staying out on his same tyres from the start. Same with Alvar, and same with Cottony. Imri's reconnected. He's on a slightly worn set of hard tyres. I'm guessing were the ones he used prior to the red flag coming out. Obviously forced him to change. But sits in P14 and Dan sits in P13. So those two now nose to tail. And Harrison just in front and Huff in P9. So those are your four drivers to keep an eye out in terms of your race for the Drivers' Championship positions. In terms of those places up front. Imri needs a big result to try and jump AT. And try to jump TJ. But TJ, he's in P10 there. So of the drivers involved in this race currently residing in the top 7 or so in the Drivers' Championship, even the top 8, because Cannon's right there as well. Things are still awfully close, let's not forget. Perhaps the big thing in jeopardy being Dan's 100% podium record, so I'm guessing look at just trying to emulate Michael Schumacher's 2002 season as best he can. Yet to place outside of the top 3, and that's in all 5 of the first Grand Prix this season. This is round 6. And there'll be 13 laps to go when they cross the line this time round, but with Paris and Spittles still need to close up to the field, not to mention JB, Ethan, and Lucky in the back here, as Cotton and Imri have caught up. It may be a lap or two potentially before we get a restart, especially given PJ's coming in now. PJ into the pit lane. Nice empty pit lane, not to mention Cottney joining him. Alvar staying out though. So is Alvar perhaps banking on there being one more lap of safety car at least, or at least 2? Imrie in the pit lane as well here. I think still on that same set of tyres. And I'm not 100% sure where it's changed it. Did I miss a penalty of some kind? I mean, there's been a lot going on so far. No, there was no drive-through. He's put on the same set of tyres, it seems. That is odd. But regardless, all the same, Imrie's back in the race. And currently running in P14. Oh, this thing's sort of resyncing themselves. I'm not entirely sure what's going on back here. Courtney is still waiting in the pit lane here. There he is, he's away. Oh, and gets himself back on track. I'm fearing the worst. I'm fearing a decent. I'm hoping that's not the case. But yeah, everyone seems back to where they were now. Courtney now a fresh set of medium tyres. Things look all okay for now then. But still waiting on Spittles and Paris to catch back up. And that could be another lap or so. So opportunities ripe for Alvar to come through and make his way into the pit lane, get off those hard tyres. There were 12 laps to go. But Alvar staying out. He's going to have to stop at some point. And I'm thinking this could potentially be a 10-lap shootout to end this Miami Grand Prix if we're not careful. Spittles is closing the gap in the Alpine, but Paris is still yet to close the gap. Paris T32 yet to join up. He's currently going through turn 13 as the leaders go through turn 3. And normally, so the latest they can call the safety car in is around turn 17-ish. That's the latest. So I think if we get to that braking zone, if we get to turn 18 and they've not called it in, it's going to be at least another lap before we get racing again. But I'm thinking this could potentially be a late call. Paris is going through turn 17 now. So we go through turn 8 with the lead train. Everyone looking like they're on pretty much fresh tyres now. The only drivers that aren't is obviously Alvar on those same hard tyres he's had on since the start. Trying to go for the one stop. And Imrie is on a 7-lap old set of hard tyres. Spittle's on a 13-lap old set. And Paris has done 4 laps on his. But aside from that, everyone on fresh tyres here for the restart. And Che has still led quite comfortably here since Imrie and Dan went down the field. There's been little to no threat for him. He just sort of comfortably pulled away while Cook, Curtis, Shadow Rain in 10th and TJ sort of went at it for the lead here. Will the safety car get called in this time? That's the question. Will it be a late call because Paris is still going into turn 11 now? There it is, and safety car in this lap. So Che is the control car. Cook in behind, gunning for his second RDL victory and his first since Las Vegas season 19. Curtis in behind. Alvar in 4th place, but yet to pit. Shadow Rain in P5, 10th in P6. So things still looking mighty close as Che leads away. Green flag is back out. There'll be 11 laps to go here around Miami. Cook following in Che's footsteps as green flag comes back out again. Curtis in behind, and Shadow Rain wasting no time. They're trying to make a move on Alvar, trying to dispatch the Aston Martin sooner rather than later. As they go in through turns 1 and 2. Shadow Rain goes through. And Huff fighting TJ. Yellow flag behind. Everything's all clear. I believe everything's all clear. Oh, Ben and TJ fighting here. Quite similar to the first lap between Dan and Imrie. As they go through turn 7. Can they both hang on to it? TJ down the inside. Good move there from the Haas driver. Can Ben come back at him? It seemed not. Harrison in right behind. And then Dan looks to try and challenge. But Dan's used a lot of his boost here in this first lap since the restart. 10th Cannon's P5. Now the McLaren driver getting herself around the Aston as there goes Ben behind. Side by side with TJ. Going to try the outside through turn 13. Through turn 12, sorry. Someone's got to give here. No one's giving. Awfully close. With both cars keeping it away from each other. And more crucially, away from that inside barrier. Oh, contact! I think I spoke too soon. Ben and TJ on corner exit. Ben throws the hand up there. And that's going to be... I think the stewards have words or two to say about that. Huff passing Alvar now for 6th place. So Alvar falling through the field here. He's going to have to pit soon, isn't he? He's done 19 laps those things. We're in the final 10 laps now as Cook is right on Shea's tail. Of course, if Cook can come to the line in 2nd place and Shea wins the race, then Cook will be credited with a win and the full points, as has been mentioned. But Curtis is more his biggest concern. Curtis, for all his races here in the RDL, has finished 2nd 3 times, but is yet to grace the top step. He's so could potentially today be his day in true Sergio Perez fashion. Shadow Rain in behind and quite comfortably now, a 2.5 in front of 10th Cannon, and Shadow Rain could be staring down the barrel of Cadillac's first RDL podium and his first RDL podium as Imrie dispatches his teammate in P16. Imrie's got work to do here. Things have not really gone his way so far in tonight's race. Of course, caught out from the early stop by the red flag. Contact on the ensuing restart. Bender forced down the order. TJ trying to push back forward again. Lucky him separating those two as it stands. As JB and Cotley now fighting for P17. JB trying to get from the inside, can't do it. Imrie in the train here. There is Ethan running in P15 for Audi. Right behind his teammate PJ. Those two have got 9 laps on their hard tyres to try and advance through the field here. As Harrison making the pass on Alvar now, the Aston Martin continues to drop places. As Dan might try to go through the inside now, there he goes. And truth be told, I don't see what Alvar stands to gain here in staying out as long as he has. Cop through turn 1, he's made the pass as well. We've now got 2 of our 3 reserves in the top 10, which means that the points will go down to 12th place Lucky Lambert. Williams could do with some points. Trying to break that tie with Ferrari, who have Imrie down the field. So that means that Williams move up into P6 outright. That will drop Ferrari down to P7 and continue their somewhat woeful start as a unit. As Fred Vazelis was in the media questioning a few weeks ago. There goes Shadow Rain, passing Curtis now. And Cadillac inching closer and closer to the front. And Shadow Rain on those medium tyres. The question is, how long will they last? And will they have enough speed to get up to Cook in P2? Because Cook is now a solid 2.5 seconds clear. And looking potentially like the driver to win this race. Curtis in 10th, still close behind. On to that 22 here. There's just 8 more laps to go around the Hard Rock Stadium. Huff in P6, I mean P5, and 1 more place for him will be enough for him to jump Grumio. He sits 1 point behind him right now. The gap currently between Huff and Grumio. Kurt's going way wide there through turn 3. Keeps the car in the wraps, but may have lost a bit of time to Shadow Rain. And this could be huge for both American teams to get two different American constructors on the podium at an RDL Grand Prix for the first time ever. The prospect is still there. The only question is whether 10th Cannon could try and spoil the party here. She goes to the outside into turn 11. It's awfully tight. Curtis locks up, but 10th goes wide, almost runs into the back of Shadow Rain going through turn 11. So Curtis hangs on. It's as you were once again, and Huff closing the gap a little bit. He'll be looking to gain as many points as he can with Dan down the field. Currently gaining 4 of them. 23 points as it stands, separating Dan from Huff. Actually, there'll be only 25, given that Dan, as it stands, is gaining a place off of Harrison's penalty. As Curtis makes the pass on Shadow Rain. That's still Harrison's penalty for corner cutting on lap 2, quite a while back now. As Cook has closed the gap here to Che up front. 10th and Shadow fighting over it. Huff and Harrison side by side. Out of our penalty. At long last finds the pit lane. That's going to be Vervin up on spot. Imrie into P12 now. I think he's currently got his hands on the last points paying place. And in terms of the race for the constructors' point, it's now advantage Ferrari for P6. Imrie's got 7 laps to try and push it forward. He's got Ben as his next target, then TJ, then Cott, then Dan. But your front row starters have had things all go against them tonight. .2 separating Cook from Curtis. Shadow Rain goes to the inside, makes the pass, and 10th on the outside again. And this time keeps her footing close to there was contact there, a bit of a tap of the tyres. Harrison now right behind these guys, and don't count out Huff or Dan either. All of a sudden, your front runners beginning to join the party. As up front, Cook continues to pressure Che. He doesn't need to do this, remember. The points are his if things stay as they are. But Cook is a racer. He's going to try and go for it, I should think, at some point, at least once before the end of the race. His only hope now will be that Che doesn't hold up too much and the cars behind don't close in. But if Dan and Huff and Harrison can dispatch these 3 runners quickly, then that changes matters completely. And it may give them enough time to try and close up. Curtis to the inside of Shadow Rain at turn 1, makes the pass into 3rd place again. Shadow Rain not looking to give in just yet. They run through turn 3. Things calming down the midfield here. Imrie's dispatched Ben. TJ's next target. And from there it's 2.3 to Cott in front. But that'll push Imrie into 8th place in the points if he can get that place off TJ. Spittle's onto a set of soft tyres. Things have not really gone his way so far tonight. And a wing change once again. Marks his 5th stop of the Grand Prix. Tough day for Alpine as a whole here, but Harrison still with a good chance at some points. But that penalty not helping his case too much. I think he's going to hang on to be sort of finish the end of this train regardless of what place that is, because I don't think Cott will catch him in time. Cott's 2.8 behind as it is. .3 between Curtis and Cook. And Cook continuing to chase Che here. Not letting up. And there he goes. Almost the first move to the inside there as 10th Cannon fighting Shadow Rain. McLaren versus Cadillac again into turn 17. Big lock up from 10th. And gets in front for a second. There goes Harrison at the inside. First blood then drawn to the Alpine. As Shadow Rain lies in wait next up. And Dan looking to try and follow through. And Huff taking it as well. So 10th falling away. Down the field here, no chance of a podium finish. May look shot with 5 laps to go. And everyone sort of finds their way back into the rhythm again. Harrison has got to dispatch Shadow Rain and then Curtis. Granted, he's got a penalty, let's not forget, but Dan is going to try and close up these guys as well. And I wonder if there's an outside chance still for one of these guys to win this race. But Cook's in control right now. And still chasing Che, but oh, yellow flag's out. That's Cott down the field. Cott spins out. Down the order and falling away at turn number 8. Recovers it. No damage done to any car but his own. Green flag back out. No safety car. And that denies us any chance of a late race restart. They've merged up together again. Curtis still two seconds back from Cook. He's closed a little bit here, but Harrison's got other ideas now. And Harrison still set to finish the tail end of this train unless he can try and pull away a bit more. As Cock gets a penalty of his own now. Again, now it's Dan and Shadow Rain fighting. McLaren are really not letting that Cadillac go one bit. But there's 4 laps to go now. And Cook is looking good. Yellow flag again. Oh, that's car around. That's Huff around. And the chance gone then for Huff to gain some points in the Drivers' Championship. Down the field he goes. Huff down to P15. And I'm not entirely sure what just happened there, but disaster with just a handful of laps to go for Huff. And his chance of closing down anything on Dan in the Drivers' Championship now gone completely. As Dan still sits in P6, Huff's got to hope that Dan makes some sort of error of his own and force down the order now. Harrison now into third place. He's made the pass on Curtis, but has he got enough left in those tyres to try and hunt down HB Cook in these last few laps? And even if he does, he's got to drag everything with him. But there's been any chance that there'll be any sort of change in this Grand Prix, but Cook keeping Che honest right now. Not going for that move, doesn't need to. But will it be too tempting to try and win the race on track? Big gain there. Harrison closed the gap massively going through turn 14 and 15. The gap's under 1.4 seconds, almost 1.3. And things starting to get that little bit more interesting. Do not go anywhere, because this race is by no means finished. There goes down to the inside of Shadow Rain again. Into turn 17 again, late on the brakes and that lockup every time from the McLarens. Shadow Rain again, it keeps him at bay. Off the podium right now and needs to dispatch Curtis, needs to catch up to Curtis and get back around him. Harrison only 1.1 behind HB Cook, and if he gets overtake, that's going to make the job for Cook a bit more difficult, because he's bringing Curtis and Shadow Rain and Dan in 10th and well, just those guys with him. Imrie now up to P8 here, and will still gain a place once the reserves are removed. With Che there, so P7 for him right now. So still not a bad return given the situation tonight, but I think Fry will be disappointed just with bad luck and things not going their way tonight. Dan and 10th side by side here. Looking to try and put some sort of trick play on Shadow Rain. 10th moves back into line. Dan's got no battery here, but 10th hasn't got much left herself. So McLaren running out of chances here, running out of time to try and win this race. It's still all on Cook, Harrison, Curtis and Shadow Rain. Well, Shadow Rain himself actually falling away a bit here. But it's only 2 laps to go. Harrison's in striking distance, but Curtis is the one to keep an eye on here. He's got overtake and will try and close the gap. Could we see a last lap shootout here around Miami? Curtis, Che, a big slide there. And perhaps those tyres haven't got much more to give here. Oh, Dan's got slow. I think Dan might just slid there going through turn 18. And Dan falls down the field now. And Cook takes the lead up front. And there's the pass that we were looking for. But if Che starts to fight Cook again, then Harrison and by extension Curtis, Shadow Rain in 10th could try and get involved. Curtis and Shadow Rain still looking at a podium here. 10th would need to dispatch Shadow Rain to get around and score one for herself. After 2 4th place finishes, could be on course potentially and a 3rd here. If she can pass that Cadillac, or hope that someone in front makes a mistake. Harrison trying to close here. Curtis still over a second back with no battery to use. Che back down the inside, takes the lead. He's led practically, he's led about 2/3 of this Grand Prix. And I'm sure would like to not be denied first place at the death, even if it means nothing in terms of points. And I'm sure Harrison would like to try and beat Cook on track if he can get himself there, but Cook's still looking in control here and looking for a second career RDL victory. And Curtis perhaps hoping and praying that he makes some sort of mistake that can open things up for him. Remember, Curtis has finished second 3 times. That's his best finish in this league. And still looking for career win at number 1. And in a minute and a half's time, that could still happen as Che slides through turn 18. He'll bring us around to start the last lap in Miami, but Cook's on course for the win unless something happens on this final lap. Into turn 1 they go. And Cook from here doesn't need to do anything but except really watch his mirrors. Because while Harrison could pass him, essentially the Alpine serving as a nice little roadblock between him and that Haas behind. 10th Cannon now in front of Shadow Rain and looking for that podium finish, first of the season for her. Because Harrison's penalty will most likely mean that 10th gets in front. As Imrie gets a penalty of his own now with TJ on his tail. That might drop him 2 more places here with Lucky not too far behind either. And I'm thinking with Curtis low on battery and Cook where he is, that could be all she wrote. Any chance of a last second thriller, somewhat akin to England versus France just 2 nights ago, could be snuffed out. I think have safely been snuffed out now by the sheer confidence of Cook behind the wheel as Curtis has been chasing it. It looks as though he'll be settling for second once again, unless something goes wrong in this final furlong. Che is going to come through and take first place on circuit. As a reserve, will not be classed with the victory. That win will go to HB Cook, who's looking for career win number 2 here as he rounds that last corner. Che with a dominant drive as a reserves take victory. He's always good at his reserve appearances. Che crossed the line first in Miami, but HB Cook then will win the Miami Grand Prix. Curtis in second place. 10th Cannon takes her first podium of the season. Harrison there in the end misses out. And well, that's not quite right. Cook, your winner. Imri's been promoted to like many places there for some odd reason. I'm not quite sure what's happened to him there, but crossed the line a fair few places down. And Ben, I think, went around later on as well, down to P15 at the very end. But HB Cook will be delighted with that. And a very chaotic Miami Grand Prix. Last car to the line being Alvar for the back. Just sort of catch our breath there. Well, Cook is the winner, as far as we know. Che drove fantastically, though, to just sort of get to the line first. It was a brilliant race for him. And I mean, Imri very clearly didn't win the race, so we'll leave that. But I mean, yeah, I mean, Cook wins it from Curtis P2, and 10th comes home with the podium. It's going to take a bit of time to sort of figure out the order here. Very confusing scenes late on here in Miami, but Harrison Cook came across the line, that penalty, the MP4, Shadow Rain P5. Dan came across in 6th. I believe Imri finished in 7th, but the penalty may drop him behind TJ and Lucky. I have to see here in terms of how close that was. But there's a lot to figure out then after that result. And that we'll leave that to the competent heads in the in the stewards room following this race. But we'll cut now to the interviews as we just get ourselves settled down then from that Grand Prix. And I've already got a number of rivals here, which is a rarity to start us off. But I'll come to 10th Cannon, who was here first from what I saw. Could be wrong, but I'll go to 10th because you could finish the... Okay, well, Ben was here first. Ben, if you'll go first, it's up to you, mate. All right, I mean 10th. I mean, got yourself on the podium late on from what I saw there. Got yourself around Shadow Rain with 2 laps to go, and that is, I mean, after 2 4th place finishes, that is a first podium of the season as far as I know.
Everyone was having issues. I had a chance to win it, but I mean, you can dream big, but sometimes you got to dream realistically. And I mean, I am more than happy with 15 points out of that, even if it was 4th on the road. Yeah, just a good day.
I mean, talk me through it from your end, because I mean that was very chaotic with obviously the safety car mid race, the red flag as well. That was obviously a big impact. Was it just a case of keeping a cool head today?
I suppose so. I think it's just keeping calm and carrying on. It was very difficult. I was very nervous during that race, which I don't think I normally am so much, but yeah, it was a bit chaotic. I think calmer heads prevailed in this one.
Obviously, we saw Dan up there with you towards the end of the race. Did you catch up what happened to him with the few laps to go?
Yeah, he just spun. I feel so bad for him because he was having a really good weekend, and yeah, he doesn't deserve to have such a difficult weekend. Doesn't deserve for it to end this way, but could be worse. We got points as a team, so yeah, I don't think we can complain so much.
I mean, it just looks like a day where sort of all the big teams across the board were definitely misfiring. Of course, a lack of Mercedes cars in the field, and I think you guys were sort of, in terms of the top four or five teams in the championship, you guys are the only one to have both cars in the points. So fair play on that. Would you? I mean, I know it's still quite early on, but would you mark you guys down saying you're potentially favourites for the constructors this year?
Favorites, I'm not sure about. We'd have to wait and see how the season plays out. But candidates, almost definitely. I mean, you've seen it. I think this is my third top 5 in a row. I don't think since I started scoring points, I don't think I've finished lower than 4th. But
Correct. Yes.
yeah, and Dan's been doing. He's just been excelling. He's been winning races. He's been getting podiums. I think, would he still be in the lead of the championship?
He will be. Yes. He's actually gained points on both Huff and Grimir today, obviously.
Nice. Well, yeah, he's doing just as good as he always has been. He's a very good driver, and he's continuing to be a very good driver. So, favorites we'll have to see, but candidates almost definitely.
Well, there's a good word to use for it going forward. Obviously, good job today on the podium finish. Obviously projected. We'll see as to how things will tot up with the steward report comes out during the week. We'll come to HB Cook, who, as far as I know, we're going across the line behind Shea, but with reserves out the way, should mean that he wins the race. So, Cook, I mean, second win on the board for you, obviously pending as always until sort of Tuesday night.
Yep.
But are you pleased with that? I mean, that was definitely. I imagine that's not what you thought was going to happen when you woke up this morning.
Well, we'll see. Because Imri magically finished 3 minutes ahead on my screen, so we'll see how that goes. But no, definitely didn't think I had the pace for that. I thought it went pretty well. You know, I think it's my best quality of the season, I believe. So I knew a good finish was on the cards, and then obviously I think Dan lost it. Imri pitted early and then just couldn't get back through. Harrison got contacts on that one, and then it just kind of, all the pieces started falling into place. So good that I won, but God, Harrison and Shea pushed me all the way.
I was going to say it was very close between you guys at the end. I mean, given a lap or two more, because obviously you saw Harrison and Curtis closing in. Would there have been a bit more nerve there?
Yeah, Shea was defending well. So obviously I wanted the position on track. And then obviously in the tight section, Harrison just kept getting like 3 or 4, nearly 5/10 a lap. So I knew it was coming, but luckily I had enough batch on both straights just to dump it all, and I managed to hold on. But yeah, give it 2 more laps, and who knows what could have happened.
I mean, yeah, it's a good result no matter what you look at it. But I mean, going forward, is this the sort of result we'll come to expect over the course, or like this sort of high finish? Perhaps not the win, but sort of fighting for these podiums more often.
I don't know. Honestly, you've seen me this season. I've been one race, I'm at points, and qualifying it back. Next minute, I'm like P6. Next, I'm winning. So I think it's very track dependent. I know I'm missing Monaco that's coming up in a few races' time, so that's gonna hinder me a bit. But hopefully, just gotta keep learning these reds and just gotta keep pushing and seeing what happens. Like I said, we're not fully racing. It's down to battery, but you've just got to deal with the cards you've been given at the end of the day. So unlucky for Ben, who got Dame crashed, which EA must really not like him recently, but a good result for the team at the end.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, good points for the team as a collective, without a doubt. So yeah, good job today. I mean, doubling the points tally for the team as things run. So good job from Cook today, and we'll come to Ben, Cook's teammate, after the obviously Ben commiserations there will happen later on. But prior to that, I mean, you having a fairly good race sort of in the midfield. A lot of good challenges today. What was your take on the whole thing?
End of the day, I don't think it particularly matters about the whole thing. I think it's about where you finish, and well, let's just say my luck is non-existent. It's absolutely gut-wrenching. I've literally tried everything in the book, and yeah, this game decided to screw me over once again.
I'm guessing again just died on you, sent you back to the Xbox Hub.
Yeah, it pretty much crashed on the penultimate lap on the race in Sector 3. So, and my AI had pit, I've found out. So, what wonderful game this is.
But I mean, talk to me about sort of the Grand Prix prior to that point. Obviously, quite chaotic, as you saw. Safety car, the red flag in there. You ran up in the points quite early on. Pace-wise, were you satisfied with sort of how things were running today, or was there sort of certain bits you think could have gone better?
I struggled a bit on battery in the final stint, but pace-wise seemed pretty good. I have to say I was pretty pleased with my first qualifying run. Yeah, again, I was only 16, so I just always seem to be strangled by like a 10th. If I just found like a 10th improvement, all of a sudden it's 12th and it's a lot better. But nevertheless, the starts make up for it. So I would have to keep pushing, but I'm not here for the next two races, so that's massively screwed over the team as well. So, but congratulations, Cook. He's fully deserved that with the look that he's had recently as well.
We'll come back to Barcelona, I think, when we next see you. So it's the race after Monaco. Is that, I mean, with a bit of time to recharge, will that be sort of a hopefully positive result?
I don't know, because I land back on that Saturday, so whether I get the time to practice or not, whether I get any time at all is up in the air. But Barcelona is notorious for tires being stupidly hard to handle, so I'm not looking forward to that race in the slightest, I won't lie.
Alright, so there'll be one to sort of take on the chin as we go forward with Ben again. Commiserations for the sort of complication towards the end of the Grand Prix. Hopefully we'll come back swinging when we do go to Barcelona in a few weeks' time. We'll come now to Huff, who of course was running up in the points late on until the late instant. Huff, talk me through what happened there late on.
I just pushed too hard, hit the curb and spun. I think it was just icing on the cake for the rest of the race, to be honest. Nothing seemed to just be going my way today, but it was a bit unfortunate considering last week I also didn't get any points. But it's just there needs to be an end to the bad performances.
I mean, I say difficult evening for Red Bull as a whole. Obviously, Websy going down as the lone retirement. The crash that brought up the initial safety car and red flag, as far as I know. I mean, is there anything in particular that needs to be done to sort of influence that turnaround in form?
I'm not sure. Like, me and Webs are using the same setups at the moment, and we're sort of compromising qualifying today to have like a good race setup. But it turned out the race setup was also bad. So I don't know. I think I just have to have a look and see what I'm doing. I need to do a bit more practice. Just not had much time this week. So, but yeah, I think I don't know where we're racing next week. Do you know?
That will be Canada next time out, Huff. So I mean
yeah. Well, I think Canada's quite strong for me, so hopefully it'll be a wee bit of a comeback.
I'll ask you this because as far as I know, it's been next week will mark a full season. You'll have done sort of being part of the league, obviously as a reserve, then a full-time driver. Have the things you sort of learned since being here been a positive to your racing as a whole?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's nice to know how people drive because we race with the same people every week. Like there were some ups in this race. Like I had a few, like a wee battle with Harrison and a battle with Dan, and it's just nice knowing that people are going to leave your room and you can just have, even if you're going to lose a place, it's just nice to have a little battle. But yeah, that's.
Fair enough, man. I mean, I'll say this, I'm glad you're enjoying things all the same. It's been fantastic to watch you as a full-time driver so far, and I'd still put you up there in terms of having an outside chance at pushing for the Drivers' Championship. Obviously, I know there's a long way to go, but is that so? If you can get sort of the turnaround in form, is that something you feel like you can be confident to try and challenge for later in the year?
Yeah, I think like there's a long way to go, so hopefully I can get this. Pull myself together and sort of start fighting up top again. I feel like a lot of people are now starting to get the hang of this game a lot more. So it's just I don't know if that's showing where my true pace is or if it's just just me putting the lack of practicing. But we'll find out.
So yeah, I mean, first chance to get yourself back around beyond the 27th in Canada next week. So I look forward to seeing that. We'll come now to Curtis, who crosses the line based on what I'm seeing on my results here. I'm guessing. In terms of full-time drivers, Curtis comes home second. Curtis, again, I mean, fantastic race the whole way through, but I'm guessing it must have slightly gutting to be sort of, again, so close to that first win.
I mean, how many races? What is it, like 350 or something?
I can confirm that for you if you'd like. That number currently
No,
sits...
please don't.
Okay, fine, I won't.
No, I've had an absolutely roller coaster of a weekend. No practice at all, so... To qualifying third, I think, was a massive surprise. I know my qualifying is pretty good because they call me George Russell on a Saturday. All the quality pace at no race pace. Yeah, I had a very turmoil weekend. So to finish in the points is great. To get a podium, I think was out of possibility, out of the reach possibility. But I will take it. I'm not going to take anything for granted at all.
I mean, points for both you and both you and TJ at Hastings. So obviously, first podium of the season, and at an American race for an American constructor. So that works out quite nicely there as well. And that's helped solidify you guys sort of being a bit more solid in P4 in the constructors. Would that be a place you guys be confident in trying to maintain?
Again, I don't see why not. We had a decent run last year. You know, at one point we weren't too far off P2 in the standings, the constructor standings last year, but just being solid and consistent. So P4, I think, is definitely achievable. I think this game or DLC more than last year is very track by track, depending on where you're quick. But yeah, if we just keep our noses as clean as we can and keep the car facing in the right direction, there's no reason why we can't solidify a top 4 finish this season.
And you said about sort of the track dependency of this DLC so far. Going to Canada next week, of course, a circuit. There'll be a number of straight mode zones there. Plenty of places to try and use battery, but not so much chance to save it. Will that be a track that you might be able to excel at in that sense, or not so much?
Well, I think there's so much out there for people to see and learn. I think everyone will be saving and deploying in similar ways. So it'll be a very much a case of who's willing to deploy in somewhere different just to get past. But then obviously they'll bite them later in the lap. So just again, be consistent. If someone's massively faster than you, don't worry too much about it. Hopefully they can drag you along and get points that way.
So let's take in then after the race here in Miami for Curtis. Again, second place, and we will be there when that first win happens, whenever it may come, because I'm very confident in you, Curtis. And we'll come now last of all to JB, who finished outside of the points. And JB, truth be told, I'm unsure in terms of the exact finish, because obviously all the changes at the order towards the end. I'm guessing coming home in P14, because my results jumped in me up the order. But yeah, I mean, difficult race, I'll say, for Williams sort of as a whole. Lucky gets himself into the points. Talk me through it from your end.
12th, I think, but yeah, just shocking for me. I think I caused the red flag and I caused the safety car, so yeah, not good. Unfortunately, I accidentally left the boost on through the first few corners, and the rear's just lit up. I did manage to save it, but unfortunately, a couple of people went to the inside where I was to try and avoid me, and yeah, just was in the way. So unfortunately, I took Websy out, which obviously I've apologised to him for. And then yeah, the pace was all right, which was the frustrating thing. I did get past a number of people, but yeah, and then I lost my front wing again in the same corner. So just one of those races where nothing went right, and just got to regroup for the next one.
I mean, yeah, it's just a very chaotic race. Obviously, one of those rare Grand Prix we end up with a red flag. How much did that sort of change the course of your race?
Well, to be honest, once the red flag came out, my race was over, because the game gave me a 5-second penalty, which was lenient. And then I tried serving the penalty, and for some reason the game just wasn't letting me serve it, so it was stuck with me the whole race. So yeah, it was tough, but I still enjoyed some good battles with PJ and Ethan and the guys a bit further down the field. So yeah, just one of those races, and scored some points last week. So you can't win them all.
Fair enough. I mean, okay, this next question I'll ask you sort of coming from the more the league owner perspective. Obviously, up front today, very chaotic race as a whole. A number of different drivers that perhaps we wouldn't see up front as often fighting for the win. Is that a positive thing, sort of, from an ownership standpoint? The league is still as competitive as ever?
I think there's some really, yeah, I think everyone on the grid is talented. And yeah, good to see, for example, today Cook was really strong, and Curtis as well. I think the front runners made a few too many mistakes. And by the way, it was brilliant to see Che. Obviously, he was a reserve, but yeah, he was the class of the field today. So yeah, nice to see some different faces up front. And I expect going forward, it'll probably be similar. So yeah, all I'll say is watch this space.
Without doubt, I'll agree with you on Che. I mean, I don't know what it is about Che in reserve races, but he always seems to come alive and have a shout to win these things, which is always positive. More short term, back to the racing sort of side of things. Canada next week. How is that as a circuit for you going into this? With these regulations, a fair bit of change, but Is that track we're confident for, or not so much?
No, it last season it was comfortably my worst race. I think it was possibly one of the only two I retired from, and it was through just I kept spinning because the setup was all wrong. I just don't like the track because it's track limits are a nightmare. I think probably be easier on this game actually because you're probably not going to be sending it into every corner because of the lifting coast or whatever. Yeah, just not a good track. I am doing better with these cars, so it'd be nice to nick a few points, but otherwise, yeah, I think wishful thinking to do much better than that.
We shall see just how wishful that thinking is come next week. And of course, everyone is welcome to join us on the 27th of July for the Canadian Grand Prix, the next race in what has already been a titanic season so far of RDR Racing. Well, that'll do it then in terms of tonight's coverage. And thank you everyone for coming along to the interviews and once again giving us a fantastic show. We will join you next time for that Grand Prix in Montreal in 7 days' time. Have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.